What is up, you guys? Teller checking in with another free play coming your guys' way for the huge UFC 288 fight card. Now, you guys know we started this segment off very hot. We have been hitting some rough patches as of recently. Once again, I do apologize that the Ricky Simón play didn't come through. That was my last free play. He obviously shit the bed. I mean, he just didn't show up whatsoever. I thought that the takedowns and the cardio would have played a factor, but Yadong Song was just on another level. Now, obviously, when I pick one of these free plays that I'm going to throw your guys' way, it's one from the batch, and I was very close to making Martin Buday be the free pick video that I was going to give to you guys. Obviously, Buday came through in a major way. I had a big time 4-unit play in him as well at essentially pick 'em odds. But you know that's just the nature of the beast. I do just pick one of my official plays to give towards your guys' way, and it happened to be Ricky Simón. I'll make up for that here. When I'm picking one of the official plays that I want to make a video about, obviously I want to give you guys one that I feel very confident in, but also I want it to be a fight that I'm excited to talk about, and I was very excited to talk about that Ricky Simón versus Yadong Song fight. And again, I do apologize that didn't come through, but I got a banger coming your guys' way here. I'm very excited to talk about this fight. We got the big boys throwing down in the light heavyweight division. Devin Clark is taking on Nzechukwu. This fight has all the makings to be an action-packed fight. I think there's a very realistic chance we see a finish. But most importantly, I think I see some value when we take a look at the line. It's time to bounce back with the W here. Let's get to it.
Welcome to the show. This is the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.
So I want to kick things off by talking about the freakish frame that Nzechukwu has for the light heavyweight division. He is 6'5" with an 83-inch wingspan. That's without a doubt on the longer side of things in the division. And then on the other hand, you got a guy in Devin Clark that's 6 foot flat with a 75-inch wingspan. So we're talking about an 8-inch reach advantage for Kennedy, as we've seen his striking continue to grow, and he'll be looking to strike from the outside with his boxing. You take that into consideration, and also Kennedy's a fighter that, in my opinion, my strong opinion, should be not necessarily in a 6-fight winning streak, but he should have won 6 of his last 7 fights. You guys know he did not get the nod against Nikolai Negamariano. Now, that was a fight where Kennedy had a point deducted in the 3rd round. But when you take a look at all the media scoring, all the major media scoring, half of them had Kennedy scoring a draw on that fight at the very least, even with the point being deducted. Therefore, he definitely won 2 rounds. And then the other half of the media still had him winning that fight, obviously stating that he won every single round. So you take that point away from him there, and he still wins the fight. So the judges doing what the judges do there, but take into consideration that winning 6 of your last 7 fights in the UFC's light heavyweight division is definitely something to acknowledge. Now, on the other hand, Devin Clark has been 8-7 throughout his UFC career. He's been around for a while now. He made his debut 7 years ago. Quite honestly, when he bursted on the scene in the UFC, I thought that he was a fighter that would be lucky enough to have hung around for a year or two. I really didn't believe him to be a UFC caliber of fighter. I think that he definitely has proven that he is. We've seen growth with his striking. He's extremely tough. We know he has the wrestling pedigree. But when you take a look into his resume as he's 8-7, you also need to understand that the losses that he has taken have been against very reputable opponents in the division. You think about Azamat Murzakanov, still undefeated. He's an absolute stud. Losses to Kutilaba, Anthony Smith, Ryan Spann, Alexander Rakic, the former champion Jan Blachowicz. I mean, these are legitimate opponents. So maybe we should also recognize that although he almost has about a 500 record in the UFC, the losses are nothing really to take lightly. I mean, they're against serious competition, and he's coming off the biggest win of his career. And that huge victory that we're talking about, he was able to win a unanimous decision against Da Un Jung. Da Un Jung, a very respected fighter in the division. You also need to take note that Da Un Jung has a 1st-round finish over Kennedy. A little bit of fighter math for you there. But Devin Clark has been looking better. You take a look at his last 3 fights. We mentioned the loss against Azamat Murzakanov, but before that, he finished William Knight. later on in that fight, looking crisp with the hands even late in that fight, showing that his cardio is up to par. I really think if you take a look at those last two victories, your respect level for Devin Clark has to go up. And if we're talking about recent fights, how about Kennedy's last fight, where he dismantled Ian Cutelaba in the second round? You have to love the way he weathered the storm early. He was put on his back for a brief moment in time, worked his way back up. You see the growth in his overall grappling, but the striking is looking really crisp. You have to love the work that he's putting in with former UFC fighter Charles Byrd over at Fortis MMA. Byrd, the Fortis MMA striking coach. I think that he's a very underrated coach in the game right now. And Kennedy is really one of his prime products. I mean, you see the growth in his game fight to fight. I think that the potential for Kennedy is very high when you take into consideration he's only 30 years old. Now, we do have to note that there's been a couple performances by Kennedy where he started off a little slow and was a little vulnerable to being hit with some big shots early on. When you think about what Carlos Olberg did to him early on in that fight, he did eat a lot of shots, but you have to love the way that he ate those shots. I mean, he shows to have a granite chin. Yes, he was finished by Da Un Jong. We talked about that as well, but I still am a believer in his chin for the division, but he has to continue to work on his defense. Like I said, he starts a little slow, and this is the light heavyweight division. Even though Clark is not necessarily known for his striking, he does still pack a punch, and if Kennedy is snoozing, it could be a rough night for him. Again, I want to also refer back to that late knockout that Devin Clark had as of recently against William Knight. The striking definitely rounding out. Now let's talk about the betting line and see how this line's been trending. Over at BetMGM, Kennedy opened up as a -210 favorite. We saw that line dip all the way down to a -175 line, and it's jumped back a little bit. Now it has settled in at a -185 line. All right, so he's a -185 favorite. Generally, the action has been going towards Devin Clark's way. So before I tell you exactly what I did with my money in regards to this fight, let me generally tell you how I see this fight playing out. I think that the striking of Kennedy's is going to be a major problem for Devin Clark. The length is going to be a big factor in this fight. Again, an 8-inch reach advantage, but more importantly, Kennedy has been really sharp with his boxing as of recently. He's been throwing his shots nice and straight down the pipe, and I think that those are going to land on Devin Clark, and I don't think Clark's going to like it. I do think that Clark will push heavy against the cage, and he'll search for some takedowns, but I just don't think that he's going to have a lot of success there, and I think that that's going to wear on him. Kennedy's takedown defense has been looking pretty good as of recently. I mean, Kennedy has spotted an 80% takedown defensive rate in the octagon. That's a very solid number. And then interestingly enough, when you take a look at Devin Clark, although we know him for a fighter that possesses that wrestling, he's only attacked at 34% takedown accuracy offensively there, which is not that good of a number. So when you analyze that, but more importantly, when you watch the tape, you see the growth in Kennedy's game, the get-up game, the takedown defense, those long limbs. They're going to be really hard to scoop off the mat and for Clark to put Kennedy on his back. And let's say Clark sneaks in a takedown or two early on. I think that Kennedy's jiu-jitsu has shown to have improved as well. I think he'll weather the storm. Eventually, he gets back up to his feet and starts to inflict some damage, or at the very least, survives the first round, gets to the second round. When that bell rings, Kennedy's on the front foot. He's attacking. And again, I just don't think that Clark's going to like the offense that he's going to be putting on him. Once the train of Kennedy starts to pick up steam, it's really moving. Kennedy landing 4.63 significant strikes per minute in the octagon compared to Clark's 2.91. Now, Kennedy does absorb about a strike and a half, a little bit less than that, more per minute. So defensively, he needs to be on his P's and Q's as we talked about, but the chin, it is granite. So that's kind of how I see the fight taking place. I think that Kennedy eventually breaks Clark, and I'm going to say that he actually gets a late finish, maybe a second round finish here, maybe a third round finish, but eventually Clark will not have success with those takedowns, and it will wear on him, and Kennedy's volume will just continue to pick up. So where am I going with my money? You guessed it, I'm attacking that money line on Kennedy here. I threw 5 units on him. I caught that at -195. As we talked about earlier, you can grab that line right now, right around -185, which I think it's a bargain. I know it's not the lowest of lines, but when you take into consideration the matchup here, the stylistic matchup, and just the the growth that we've seen from Kennedy and all the momentum that he has. And then you also take into consideration Clark's coming off that unanimous decision win against Da Un Jung. I think his stock's kind of high right now. Realistically, I think that this line should be more towards the mid -200. So I see value there. For you guys that are looking for a better line, if you want, you could look for that finish prop where you can get on FanDuel a +155 line on Kennedy to get that knockout / TKO. So for those of you guys that want a better line, you can go after that. But I'm just taking the money line here. I grabbed it at -195. You can get a better line right now. You can grab it right around -185. Okay, that's what I'm taking. All right, guys. So that's gonna wrap up my free play coming your guys' way. Comment below. Let me know if you're fading me or you're rolling with me. Don't worry, I got thick skin. If you guys have been a little upset with some of the L's we've taken, you know, and you want to try to fade the teller here, comment below. Let me know. I want to know one way or another. If you're fading me, comment it. If you're rolling with me, comment it. And, you know, I'm excited for this fight. Please, you guys, like this video at the very least. So I can continue to shoot these videos your guys' way. Subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. Catch me on all my social media platforms on IG and Twitter. It's scrolling below. And if you guys are looking to sign up for a new sports book, you guys know I'm always willing to hook you guys up. If you sign up through my referral link, just reach out to me. All my information is down below if you want to DM me or email me. All right, guys, I appreciate you. What can I say? Enjoy the rest of your week. We got action taking place Saturday, and it's time to bounce back with a nice W here. Signing out. Teller.
Welcome to the show. This the MMA fortune teller. Yeah.
The MMA fortune teller.
The teller.